Hi, good afternoon, and good afternoon. All right, how's everybody? How's everything? I hope everybody is doing fine. It's been quite busy last 24 hours or 48 hours, both in terms of social media and work. Uh, anyways, I just want to just give you because there's lots of discussion going on about the exposure triangle thing. So I thought, okay, let me practically show you guys rather than going through long list of chat threads and explanations and hardcore theory, blah blah blah. Because nobody likes to read, right? It's boring, and especially if you're not into technical things, it's really boring. So I just want to give you a quick demo for you guys to decide. The idea behind this demo is that ISO is a part of exposure triangle or not, right? This is what we are reading for all those years. Google is full with this information. Well, I beg to differ. What I say is that ISO is not part of the exposure triangle, and it's basically SNR. What is SNR? It's something totally different. I don't want to go into detail, but I just want to show you guys right now a quick demo where I will explain you using a simple camera and a lens that ISO is not part of the exposure, right? This is the idea. All right, so before I proceed, before I say anything, I hope everybody knows the way camera works. Like that, this is the camera. Okay, so what has happened, there is a lens, light coming from the lens, and then is a shutter. Shutter controls the light, aperture also controls the light. Then it hits into the sensor record it processes, blah blah blah. There is a processor, microchip inside the camera which do everything, whatever you command from the buttons, and then it dumps on the card, SD CF card or XQD card or SD card. This is the way, simple. I'm not going hardcore. This is every camera works in that way. You control the aperture, you control the shutter speed, you control the ISO, and that's how you record the image into the card. This is how it goes. Now, let me break it down how it goes. First off, the light enters from the lens. This is where you control the quantity of light, how much quantity of light you want. I'm not talking about depth of field, I'm just talking about exposure only. That's it. So from the lens, by using the control aperture, you control the quantity of light. Now using the shutter speed, which is inside the camera, you basically define how much that particular quantity which is coming from the lens, how much that quantity is going to last, how much amount of time you let that quantity to pass in. That's decided by the shutter speed, right? So once you decided that this part, the quantity of light and how much time you want that light to enter, it falls on the sensor. Simple. Once it's falls on the sensor gives the output to a processor. Processor, basically there is a software inside the processor. It's called SNR firmware. SNR firmware basically defines, that's where you have a control to amplify the signal. If it's dark, you increase the ISO. What it exactly does is basically increase the exposure. It amplifies the signal. It's just like you are a car stereo, you want to hear the radio signal or music, it's low, you turn up the volume, so it increases the voice, right, and the music, right? This is exactly what happens. If that signal is coming low from the lens and from the shutter speed, you basically increase the ISO. What ISO does is basically amplify the signal, right? This is exactly, every camera works. Every single camera on planet Earth. Fine? So my concern here is very simple. What I am saying that, you see that exposure at the background? You see this? I am saying that this exposure, whatever the exposure outside, once you record into any camera, ISO has nothing to do with it. Let me show you how. I'm saying that this exposure, once it enters into the lens and also passes through the shutter speed and falls onto the sensor, that's it. That's where the exposure finishes. After the sensor, whatever you're going to amplify or not amplify, that's totally in your control. This is where you start manipulating the exposure. So whatever the exposure that is coming out from the sensor, if you are amplifying, that's not true exposure. True exposure is still outside. Okay? It's not whatever you are amplifying the signal inside the camera using by increasing the ISO, it's not the true exposure. Let me show you how. Alright. This is the XF that I have. I am at f11, ISO 400 at 640 shutter speed. My ISO is 400, okay? Let me show you. This is my ISO. 400, okay? 400 ISO. And f11, 640 shutter speed. I'm going to take a shot and I'll show it to you. Wait. Let me show you exactly, because I'm going to take a shot. There is one guy outside. He thought that I might gonna take his image. I don't want this to be happen. So just wait a second. All right. So here we go. Okay. This is the shot. Okay. Same setting. I did nothing. Now I'm going to increase the shutter speed. I am still not changing the ISO. ISO is still 400. Aperture is still f11. Okay? I am going to change the shutter speed. Let me show you guys. I am basically increasing the shutter speed to 4000. Okay? I took the shot. It's dark, right? Previously, this one was at 640. This one, it's dark, right? It's simple. This, right? Now, what I'm going to do, I open up the aperture. I still did not touch that ISO, okay? I'm going to change the aperture. I'm going to open up the aperture. Look, I changed the aperture to f4. Previously, it was f11. I'm changing to f4. Now I'm going to take the shot again. My exposure back. It was dark. It was okay. And I changed the shutter speed. It was dark because my shutter speed was high. So I open up the aperture. I resume the exposure back. Now what I do? Now let's suppose I want to increase. I further want to decrease to f11. I want to go back. Right now I am f22. Let me show you. I am at f22, 4000. Okay? I am f22, 4000. I am changing the ISO now. Oh, basically, you know what? Let's go back. I want to change. Wait. Okay. Here is it. I'm going back. ISO 400. Okay. This is ISO 400. 2000. Shutter speed f11. I'm taking a shot. It's dark. Right? It's dark. This is how I am recording the image. It's dark. Now, I'm not changing the shutter speed. I'm not changing the aperture. Straight away, I'm not changing anything. Okay? So it means that whatever the exposure coming from the lens and shutter speed, it's recording into the lens or recording onto the sensor. It's dark, right? This is what it was, right? Let's take another shot. I'm at 4000. See, ISO 400, f11, 4000, right? I'm taking a shot. It's dark. It's way dark. Okay? So it means that the amount of light which is coming from the lens and through the shutter, recording on the sensor, it's way too low. It's way too low. Okay, it's very dark. So it means that I am not able to get enough light. Like for example, I have been restricted not to change the shutter speed, not to change the aperture. Okay, and then I've been told that you have to fix the exposure, and at the same time I am not allowed to change the shutter speed and aperture, right? So how I'm going to change? How I'm going to fix it? You are not letting me change the aperture, you are not letting me change the shutter speed, and at the same time you are asking me to fix the exposure. My exposure is way under two stops under expose, more than that. So how I'm going to fix it, right? So the only way I can fix it is by amplifying the signal. Okay, let me increase the ISO. I have not changed the aperture. I have not changed the shutter speed. I'm only going to change the ISO. Okay, here we go. This is the ISO button, and I'm changing. Okay, look at over here. $2,000. Let's say 1600, right? Okay, I am expecting that it's going to fix the exposure. No, it's not, still not. I have to further increase the ISO. 2500. So I increased from 400 to 2500, right? I still did not change the aperture, and I still did not change the shutter speed. All right, I'm going to take a shot. My exposure is back. My exposure is back. Okay, this was before. Let me show you. This was before at ISO 400, f11, shutter speed 2000. This was the same exposure, f11, 4000 shutter speed, but ISO 2500. How the hell I fixed the exposure? The amount of light coming from the lens and the shutter speed is still the same. It still did not change. So what I did, I increased the ISO, right? So what I ISO did, it didn't flash the signal. So how the hell the exposure? I really want some intelligent answer on this. I don't want any bullshit, to be very honest. People are giving me all kind of crap, which I really don't care. I want you guys to tell me how the hell I able to fix the exposure, which was already way 2 to 3 stop under expose at ISO 400, but I able to recover by increasing the ISO. So from where the hell that extra light coming from? I didn't change the aperture, I didn't change the shutter speed. My exposure was 2 stop under expose at ISO 400. So how I am going to fix it? I amplified the signal, right? I artificially amplified the signal. I did not change the aperture to let original extra light coming. I did not change the shutter speed to let more time to come the original light coming outside from the world into the camera. Right? I did not change anything. I was at f11, shutter speed 4000, and I was 2 stops under expose. I don't know, 3 stops under expose. So I already letting in very less amount of light, but I amplify the light by increasing the ISO. So from where the hell exposure? The real exposure, which is outside in the real world. How the hell that ISO able to define that? I really want some intelligent answer on this. Please don't give me that bullshit. That exposure, ISO is a part of exposure. No, it's not. I just prove it to you guys. The exposure from the outside world coming into the camera and coming into the body is still less. I am amplifying it. Whatever I am amplifying is not the part of the real exposure. This is the point. Whatever I am doing inside the camera is not part of the real exposure. I will upload these files to you guys and you decide by yourself. Use your brain at least once in your life. For God's sake. You think I am getting angry? No. Is that I'm really feeling sorry when I see intelligent people talking stupid things. Okay, there is another point. I took this shot. Wait, I took this shot. Fine. Okay, let's talk about this one. This one. That was an underexposed shot, right? This is an underexposed shot, right? I can fix the exposure in the Lightroom, right? I can fix this. I can fix that. But I cannot fix the aperture and I cannot fix the shutter speed and post-processing in Photoshop and Lightroom, right? So that's another point for your brain to think about, that whatever is recorded on the sensor, you cannot change. But whatever happened after whatever is recorded and whatever the manipulation that you can do after it's been recorded, you can do it anywhere you want. Inside the camera, outside the camera, into light, into computer, into your mobile phone, into your tablet, wherever you want. So whatever is recorded, you cannot change. Are you getting my point? So this is why you cannot change the shutter speed and the aperture into the Lightroom, Photoshop, any software in the world. But you can change the exposure, ISO, you can change the dynamic range. Because that's everything, it's artificially manipulated after it was recorded. So whatever is recorded and you are changing everything is basically all part of manipulation. And this is what I'm saying. That ISO is basically to manipulate your exposure. I just showed it to you. I didn't change the shutter speed. I didn't change the aperture. And whatever the light was coming was way less. I artificially boosted that light into the camera to get the exposure fixed. So ISO has nothing to do with the exposure, real exposure outside. It's just helping you to manipulate it. It has nothing to do with the real exposure. And this is why you can change your exposure anytime after it was recorded into Lightroom, Photoshop, mobile, tablet, anywhere in the world. But you cannot change the aperture and shutter speed because it's recorded. You cannot change it. So whatever recorded, fine. That's done. Whatever you are going to change after recording, whatever the output coming out from the sensor, you can amplify, decrease, do whatever you like. You can even put the tilt shift effect in through the camera because it's all software. It's all manipulation. So this is the simple reality of the exposure triangle. Now, what is real exposure triangle? That's shutter speed, aperture, and SNR. What is SNR? It's signal to noise ratio. Signal to noise ratio is basically depending on multiple factors, which I will explain some other time. But please get this bullshit out from your mind that exposure triangle, ISO is a part of exposure triangle. For God's sake. For God's sake. If you have 2 brain cells, more than 2 brain cells, if you are using, please think about it. I'm not insulting you or anything, but please think intelligently. Think the way camera works. This is the whole idea. That's all I want to say to you guys. I hope you able to understand what the real exposure triangle is and what exactly the ISO doing with your image. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. I'll catch you guys some other time. Bye.